I've had a few questions about whether I still hang out with Orlando Bloom. I used to have to point out that when Orlando and I were working together, he was 19 and I was, 55 or something like that. And you should worry a little bit if a 55-year-old man is hanging out with a 19-year-old fellow. But a lot of questions about whether we still keep in touch. Most of us are still busy working actors spread out around the world, so we don't really sort of keep that in touch. But I did have a nice email from Vigo the other day, and I bump into them from time to time, generally in conventions and things like that. So we do catch up from time to time.
Of course, it was a massive undertaking making those films, wasn't it? What was it like as an actor involved in that trilogy?
Well, I knew very early on, probably before some of the others, that what we were doing was going to make cinema history. So there is that part of it. But part of the fun of being an actor is the time you spend with your fellow actors. And the very nature of my makeup and the need to preserve my makeup, and the fact that I was too large, really, to give them an eye line when they were working on camera. So, I had a double who would sit in front of the camera before them, and they would talk to him, and then at the end of the day, they'd cut me into to doing things as well. So it was a very lonely existence. Incidentally, I noticed that Ian McKellen was saying, because he was now being treated to the new processes where you can dial in the proportions of the character, but it meant that he had to be in a separate room, a separate studio, with the action going on. And he commented that it was desperately lonely, because the most fun is dishing the dirt with your fellow actors, really.
So do you particularly enjoy then, at the end of a long, hard day working on set, getting to actually see some people?
Well, yes, but then I'd go. It took me an hour to get the darn stuff off. And then it was removing so much of my skin that I looked so hideous. You're in a bad way when your then girlfriend turns around to you and says, sweetheart, I don't know how to say this, but I can't bear to look at you anymore. I've got to go back to L.A. But I really was looking absolutely hideous, because you all just wet meat all around there, and of course the swelling and the slightly sort of yucky skin complaint it was just wet meat.
What was it like being in New Zealand?
Oh, New Zealand, I love New Zealand, yeah, great place. I went back to do a convention much like this in 2004, and to promote it, I went on TV1 in New Zealand, and I was interviewed by a lady called Lisa Manning, who was hosting the show Good Morning, and she came to the show, and I took her out to dinner. And 2 years later, we had a baby daughter who is coming up for 7. Aww. So I've got a sort of measure of real affection for New Zealand.
Why do you think it's still so loved today? Those Tolkien books and also the films are so held dear to people's hearts, aren't they?
The films are, I think, probably the greatest achievement of modern cinema. I don't speak this lightly. The books are unfilmable. It is not only to Peter Jackson's credit that he found a way of filming them definitively and astonishingly, but he built an entire film industry in New Zealand to service them. His achievement is one of the most remarkable achievements of any producer-director of all time. Just amazing. Well-deserved knighthood. As for the books, in every bookshelf, in every bookshop, in any country of the world, there is about 2 feet of bookshelf devoted to Tolkien. He's a remarkable man. He's a happy man, I think. He is loved by his students, by his family, by his colleagues. Tolkien has it all because he gets it right. You know, he's a man who can survive World War I, knowing why he was fighting. A lot of people in the end lost the sight of why they were fighting. And he was a moral man and understood that great stories are moral tales. They're about good and evil.